Have you ever dealt with imposter syndrome? I have. I am. Right now, I'm dealing with immense imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is feeling like a fraud despite evidence of your competence or skills. Let's talk about this. So, I hate to be a Debbie Downer. This episode isn't going to be entirely negative. We'll finish it up with a positive spin, and I'll give you some advice on how to overcome imposter syndrome. But first, let's dive into the deeper meanings behind imposter syndrome and why someone might be going through it. I know I am right now, and I've experienced it at different stages and in different seasons of my career as an artist and throughout many of my personal interests and hobbies, sports, anything like that. So let's talk about it. I have seen a lot of professional artists in their vlogs talk about imposter syndrome. People that are what I would consider way more advanced than me, higher skill level than myself. And so it's almost kind of reassuring when I hear other artists that are more established say they deal with imposter syndrome, because it makes it more real, which I don't know if that's a good thing, but I take it as encouragement, because if they feel it, then it might not have anything to do with your actual competence. In fact, in the definition I gave, it is despite having competence. Like, you know you have skills, but you just deal with these lulls, these emotional periods of doubt. And yeah, so I guess that's a little bit reassuring, and maybe one of the reasons why I'm sitting here talking to you about it today. Maybe you are somebody who has dealt with it before or is dealing with it currently and not really aware of the fact that it is a thing, imposter syndrome. The first time I heard about it, I was like, what is that? Like, it kind of sounds self-explanatory if you think about the words imposter syndrome. But I didn't know it was even a thing, and then I was able to analyze myself and understand that I was going through that as well. So, and it was helpful for me to understand that. So here I am telling you about it. And I've got some theories about why I'm feeling this way, because it's not something new to me. I've definitely felt it before. I've been a full-time artist for 4 years, or trying to be so, at least. Quit my job in 2019. And since then, it has been a roller coaster of emotions. A lot of ups and downs, a lot of downs, particularly in the self-doubt area, because you're just working so hard and putting a lot of effort and energy into something, and when you don't see results, you don't see markers of success in your life and in your career, it brings on a lot of self-doubt. And here I am, year 4, and those doubts don't go away. They may subside from time to time and be subdued whenever you do have successes, and you can kind of ride that wave, but they definitely come back around, and I think it's a cyclical thing, and it's always going to happen like that. So this year in particular, I think I'm struggling because, well, I went on a 3-year trip to Ecuador with my girlfriend Amanda. She was the one on the podcast last week, episode 10. This is episode 11. So we spent 3 months abroad, and before that, I was kind of crescendoing. I had a lot of momentum. I had just come off my most productive year of my life. Last year, 2022, I painted almost 20 murals. I made a bunch of money for myself for what I'm used to, and I was just really productive. I was hitting my stride. I felt like I was doing a lot of really good things, and then I kind of started saying no to stuff to prepare for the trip. I was, denying commissions or saying, hey, I'll come back to you next year. And then I went on the trip. Things kind of slowed down. I was just mostly absorbing inspiration from my environment and traveling, which took a lot of energy, and I wasn't producing. I was still drawing, I was still coming up with ideas and recording footage, and I was painting murals down there. I painted 4.5 murals down there in Ecuador, but it was pretty slow. It was like basically one a month, one project a month, and each one was taking less than a week, so it was like most of my time was not being productive as an artist. And I am guilty of attaching my self-worth to my productivity level, for better or worse. And, I won't get into why that's bad, but it's just something that I do. And yeah, this year, since traveling, so like slowed down before the trip, during the trip slowed down a whole lot, and then I got back from the trip and I was doing a bunch of adjustment, coming back to a new place, cohabitating with Amanda for the first time. So we rented a house together, or we are renting a house together, and it took a little bit of time to move into this place, to kind of get my studio set up, to invest in some more equipment for this podcast, for videos, for just my new setup. Yeah, I think it was just, there were a lot of excuses. There's a lot of friction between me and my creative process, and it just took a lot of time to get back in the swing of things and get back in the flow. I really think I'm just now getting back into my creative process and creating on a regular basis. So trying to do my daily drawings. I've completed a dozen or so paintings since being in this house. Things are still slow though, so I think it's hard because I haven't really painted that many murals. I've painted 2 projects since being back in the States, and it's been almost 4 months since we've been back. No, 3 months since we've been back. So I feel like I should have been producing more. Haven't made a lot of money. I've sold a handful of pieces. I've made some commissions. I've done those couple murals and I've gotten paid for that. But I'm in the red so far. My business is profitable, but it's not covering all my expenses. And that's scary because not making the money is kind of a very real marker or indicator of my lack of success, if you will. And that's just kind of compounding all my insecurities, since I'm kind of basing this podcast in particular and my YouTube channel, my art channel, around being a professional artist and my success in that. So I feel kind of like a hypocrite, and I'm trying to give advice to other artists. And, you know, how am I supposed to give you advice when I don't have it figured out yet, right? Like, I don't know. It's tough dealing with that imposter syndrome. And I think this is just one of the challenges of being an artist. You know, it's a volatile career. There's a lot of highs and lows. I still think the highs are worth it, even though I'm sitting in a low. So I'm not going to give up. I'm not giving up anytime soon. I might consider other avenues, right? Like the fact that I haven't gotten a lot of mural gigs recently has made me think of this free time as an opportunity to invest in my video work. I'm making a bigger push on YouTube. I'm trying to put out content that I think will be helpful for people, doing a better job of documenting my work. Whereas when I was painting murals, it was easy to let those things slide and take a back seat. I'm really passionate about putting myself out there and making video content as a database for my own journey, but also just to help my followers to learn about their process and get inspiration for their own art. And I think it's a good business move too. I've seen a lot of writings on the wall that if you have the ability to make content, do it, because YouTube isn't going anywhere. It seems really oversaturated, but just think about how much time you watch YouTube videos. I watch a ton of YouTube videos. I don't really watch TV. I don't really watch Netflix. Maybe some stand-up specials here and there, but most of the time I'm just watching YouTube videos that I think are interesting, educational, inspiring. So YouTube's the future. It's the present, past, it's the future. It's the most important social media platform that there is if you're going to be creating content at all. We'll talk about this in a different episode, probably, maybe in the future. I don't know. Getting carried away. And even though I am putting more effort into YouTube and I believe in it, I'm still experiencing fraud on that level as well, because I can look at my art in the past and feel credible because I'm like, okay, I've made some pretty good work. I've done a lot of work, hundreds of paintings, thousands of images I've created, and I have achieved some success in that. I've made money through that. I haven't made a dime through YouTube. So I have a ton of imposter syndrome, even sitting here doing this podcast for you. Every single episode that I've filmed so far. And the tricky part about this imposter syndrome is that the more it consumes you, the harder it is to create. So it kind of compounds, and it's a vicious cycle and a trap that you can get caught in because you're feeling insecure and having self-doubt, and that makes you feel less creative and less likely to take action and to get out of that trap, and it just spirals you downward. So you got to be careful. Okay, enough of my sob story. Let's talk about ways that you can overcome imposter syndrome? First of all, awareness. It takes a level of awareness to know that you are in a bout of imposter syndrome. I think this is the most important thing about it. And just kind of recognizing how you feel, recognizing you're feeling self-doubt and you may be downplaying some achievements. And the next thing related to that is to kind of start to recognize or identify the causes of it. And maybe you don't always know this, but it helps to kind of investigate this. Whenever you are feeling this and you become aware, start learning how to identify the causes. Maybe it's social media. You're not gaining the following or the traction or the likes or the engagement from your community that you thought you might want or that you might attach some sort of success marker to. Maybe you got rejected from an artist call that you submitted to, or you're just trying to pitch a gig to somebody and they didn't want you. Maybe you're comparing yourself to others. Social media again, getting on there, seeing people having success. This is where it's at for me, because last year, that's where I was. I was posting all the time, all of this work that I was doing, and I was super productive. And this year I'm seeing people do the same. Other people are having success and I'm not. I'm comparing myself to them. Maybe I'm like, I'm better than them, I should be getting the work. It's not about that. Or maybe they're better than me and I'm like, I wish I were that good. I'm not that good. Maybe that's why I'm not getting work. Neither of those really are true, and I can still create and fulfill my purpose without those, despite those. Maybe another cause is just lack of validation overall. Whether you're not getting the gigs, you're not getting the compliments that you might have gotten before. I'm not saying any of these things are really good measures. It's just these could be the reasons that you're feeling this way. So it's important to be aware and to learn how to identify the causes, because then you can maybe, eliminate some of those. Get off social media. That would help. Tricky for an artist because we got to post on there. I think another helpful tactic in overcoming imposter syndrome is to embrace vulnerability. When we feel this, we do feel vulnerable. We feel weak. And it's okay to feel this way. It's important to know that it is okay. And it's also okay to share with others. I think this is kind of what I'm doing right now. I am sharing with you my vulnerability, and I could come on here and talk about all the things that I've done right and my successes and present it really well, but the truth is I'm not feeling that way right now. I'm not feeling very proud of my work. I'm not feeling super confident, and I'm sharing that with you. I'm not saying that you have to start a podcast and lament all your emotions, but maybe you have a support group. With every episode of this podcast, I have a voice in my head before I begin that's just like, why do you think that you have the credibility to speak on this? No one wants to listen to you. No one wants to hear your advice. You aren't even a successful artist. You just had a couple lucky years. That's what I'm hearing in my head. But here I am, still sharing it with you, and I'm doing that because I still have this urge deep down inside of me to express myself, to give this information, to explain the knowledge that I do have, even if it's very little. I just keep telling myself that maybe it's going to help one person and then it would be worth it. And I still don't want to sound like I'm an authority on any given topic or claim that I know what I'm doing or be a pro. I'm just trying to share what information I have, and I'm trying to share my personal experience so that you can maybe learn from me or maybe be reminded of something that you already knew. I don't know. I'm here. Another tactic: set realistic goals. I'm guilty of setting my expectations way too high. This is coming back to the comparison thing. I look at artists on Instagram and I'm like, I want that for my career right now. And it's like, I'm not looking at the decade of experience that they have that led them to that point. I just want to be where they are now. And that's just not realistic, because it takes time to develop your skills, and it's important to approach your goals with a step-by-step methodology and understand that it takes time and energy and effort. And it's really easy to skip all of that when you're viewing something on social media in its nice finished product package. I'm not saying settle in your career, but you just need to make sure that your goals are achievable so that you can have a sense of achievement and accomplishment, because that is what's going to build the momentum, and that's what's going to make your career and your practice sustainable. It's good to know and to remember that art is a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong process. It's not about a destination. We're in this for the long haul, right? So that's important to know and to come back to whenever you're feeling like you're not on that pinnacle anymore. The next one is something that I am really telling myself. I'm saying it to you, but I'm really just talking to myself, and that is to celebrate achievements. So when you do win, make sure that you are present and you're really allowing yourself to feel that. When something good happens, soak it in. You gotta bank that for whenever you feel low, then you can go back and look at that and remember what it feels like to win. I talked to Amanda about this. She was giving me shit for it in the last podcast about what it's like to date an artist. So if you haven't listened to that one, go back and listen to that. Downplaying achievements. You set a goal and you finally meet it, and then you just start looking towards the next goal. It's probably good for us to settle into that moment and really allow ourselves to feel it and celebrate when you have a victory. I've heard of people screenshotting good comments and feedback on posts that they make, and just collecting a folder of encouraging comments. I know I save periodicals whenever I make the newspaper. If I paint a mural, I will save clippings of that, and it's in my file cabinet. I rarely ever look at them, but maybe I should. And even maybe doing the same for acceptance emails when you get accepted to a big gig or something. These are just ideas. I don't do them myself, but maybe I should, and maybe you should too, if you're feeling this way as well. And kind of attached to this tactic is another tactic that I think is important, is to build a support group. So it's really important to invest in your friends and family, because whether you have successes or failures, your support group is going to be who you celebrate or who you use to lean on in your times of doubt. So, a lot of times the artist career is an independent individual effort, and we have to be selfish with our time and, say no to people in order to preserve our creative process. But at the same time, it's important to go back and invest in our most important, meaningful friendships. And if there are people in our family and in our friend groups who really believe in us and respect the work that we're doing, we got to really foster those relationships, because when it comes time to celebrate achievements, that's who you're going to want to celebrate with. And the same goes for whenever you fail, whenever you feel self-doubt and imposter syndrome. Those are the people that you're going to go to, who are going to pep you back up, who are going to encourage you to keep going. I myself have an accountability buddy. So it was somebody I used to work with in my old job before I quit. His name's Grant. I asked him if he would be my accountability buddy. And what that looks like is once a month, we meet up for coffee and we just talk about art. I talk about my goals that I have. I tell him so that he can hold me accountable to those goals. And then the next month, he checks in and we see if I met those goals. He never gives me a hard time if I didn't, but it's just nice to have somebody outside of myself and kind of outside of my social network too. He's my friend. I consider him a dear friend, but he's not somebody that I hang out with regularly. He's not in my social circle, really, of my friends that I usually hang out with. So these times with him are very sacred and very intentional, because we can just focus on me and my art and my life. And it's kind of going back and forth. The first year, it was mostly about me and my career. And then, I ended up kind of flipping the switch and helping him with some of his personal struggles, and it's just really nice, because now we kind of just meet up and talk about art and some deeper topics in life, and it's just really nice to have that relationship specifically catered to this particular concept that we're talking about, this imposter syndrome, and even celebrating successes. Like whenever I hit a benchmark, he is really a good person to help remind me of those achievements. He's like, you remember whenever you had this goal and now you're here? That's crazy. It's really awesome. I recommend having an accountability buddy for anybody, any creative, anybody that's trying to accomplish goals. Obviously, Amanda Noel is an awesome support for me. She helps celebrate wins. She's really good at comforting me whenever I am experiencing lows, just giving me a hug. She's not solving my problems, but she's just somebody that is there. And man, I don't know how people do it without a partner. And if you don't have a partner, I'm hoping this isn't making you feel down. But if you are somebody who is hyper independent like me and struggled to maintain a relationship for a long time, this is hopefully motivation and inspiration to foster those relationships. If you find somebody that's a good match for you, make it a priority to keep them in your lives, because they are indispensable and priceless for a creative, for sure, in this volatile lifestyle. Anyway, maybe more on that later. And the last tactic that I'm gonna share with you to overcome imposter syndrome is, maybe it comes down to it, you gotta seek professional help. Whether that's a therapist, just talking it out with somebody. I've done talk therapy during some of the hard parts of my life. I don't do it regularly, but I know a lot of people benefit from it, and you don't need it, but if you can afford it, it might be a worthy investment just to kind of get through some barriers. Have a third-party person help you with your struggles, somebody that doesn't have any bias in your life whatsoever, and they can just look at things at face value. And then maybe professional help through a mentor. I don't have a mentor for anything that I do in my life. I have self-appointed mentors on YouTube, people that I take advice from and watch videos from that are doing what I want to do, and that's a really good thing to seek. YouTube, there's a lot of inspiration and motivation on there. My channel hopefully is that for you. If you are wanting a mentor and you think that I would be a good fit, reach out. I haven't really thought of it until now, being a mentor to somebody. Like I said, I feel like I don't have enough success under my belt, but maybe I'm, just ahead of where you're at and where you're trying to go. Feel free to reach out to me on social media if you'd like. And just remember that these feelings come in waves. Life is cyclical. There's going to be good, there's going to be bad, ups and downs. Just ride the wave wherever it's going and know that it's going to come back around. If you're in imposter syndrome, like I am, I know that things are going to come around. I have faith that my murals are going to pick back up. I'm going to make money. The money is coming. The check is in the mail, is one of my favorite things to say. And I just got to be perseverant. I got to be kind to myself and not identify my whole being with these feelings. It's just temporary. Things will pick back up. They will come back around. Have faith. Be patient. Stay resilient. Let me know if you have anything to add. Feel free to reach out to me on social media, in the comments, YouTube. Thanks for watching.